Hi everyone, today I'm teaching you how to paint these really easy loose side-facing roses. So stick around, let's do this. So today I'm using my dagger brush, but you can use a round brush if you want. I've got my 100% cotton paper, and here is the sample I have. We'll be following that to a certain extent, but not completely copying it. All right, I've got my paintbrush all wet, and I'm just reactivating some of the paint as well as adding some new paint to what I have here. I just added some green to the pink just to tone it down. It's going to desaturate the color. I want to go really light, and so we're going to do these side-facing roses, which means petals around a tight little middle right here, and then we're going to add in a few more petals on the side, just like it's starting to open up. The great thing about painting light at the beginning is that we can then go back in and add in some darker parts and do all the little details we want to do later on. So we go too dark for the initial wash. It's really hard to get those details to show up. All right, I added in some orange to the pink, and we'll just do a nice little kind of orangey peachy rose here. So I started with that center part, and then I'm adding in those petals that surround it. I just dipped it into water to lighten up the paint on my brush. You can see a big difference between that left petal and the right one. So just kind of spreading that out. This is a very loose flower. It's kind of intuitive. It's just what you like to put down. Let's go with purple next. I'm really just using the paint that is still in my palette from when I painted last. I'm gonna do a little bit of a bud here, that light purple color. I'm just adding that in so that's nice, if you're thinking about basic shapes, a nice oval shape. It's a little bit more oval than round. And we'll do another one down here. Again, all of these are side facing, so a different perspective than that classic rose when you're kind of painting it with the center in the middle and then just doing your C-curve shapes in concentric little circles going out, getting thicker towards the end versus the center of the flower. So if you feel like your flower is looking a little bit weird, you can always augment it with a little bit more paint. And we're not doing a sketch so that our flowers will be nice and loose. And I feel like it really frees up your brain to be able to paint so loosely and not worry too much about making sure your sketch is a perfect way or your composition is a perfect way. I actually prefer to, now I do like sketching and drawing. It's really important for your brain and your muscle memory and all those things. But for the sake of being loose and just kind of random and also finding a way to make an interesting painting, I like just blobbing on those flowers and then adding in your stems in whatever direction makes sense, based on how your flowers are. And I find it to be, for me, a person who tends to just kind of go towards perfectionism, I find it to be more relaxing and more freeing. So we're adding in our sap green stems here, and I am trying to make them look like the original sample that I have on the left here. If you've been painting these flowers in a different direction, then obviously your stems will look different than mine, and that's great. I always want to emphasize that everybody's painting is going to be different because everyone has a different perspective and a different ability or a different comfort level, and it's always wonderful to see the various creations that people come up with. So if you're looking at this painting in terms of balance, you're going to notice that there's a bit more of a heaviness on the left side. So we're going to add a little bit more balance by creating leaves that might lean more heavily to the right, or at least have more leaves over there so that we can balance out that painting. And it doesn't look like there's more weight on one side than the other, if that makes sense. So today, what I wanted to talk about while we're painting is this concept of letting go. When you paint loose, when you paint with watercolor in general, there's a lot of letting go that happens. And just to pause on that, for this leaf, it's a C-curve shape on either side and filling in the center. If you need some leaf practice, then I suggest you take a blank piece of paper And just try to practice these over and over again. I promise it will help you feel more confident and more proficient just the more that you practice, which is, the concept that everything really always creates more ability to do the things you want to do when you practice. Anyway, so with watercolor, because the paint tends to kind of do what it wants to do, it tends to flow. Sometimes it's really hard to control, especially at the beginning when you're learning. It helps us to be able to let go of things that we really hold on to deeply. For example, sometimes we have a tendency to want to control the people around us, the people we love most. We feel like we know what's good for them. And being able to learn to let go of that, to allow people to make their choices, and for us to be able to decide how we're going to react or relate to those choices because we can't control other people. And even when it comes to parenting, it's not about controlling your kids, but you can be in charge, right? Of listen, this is the expectation. If you don't do the expectation, this is the consequence that will happen. Here, as everything has dried, I'm going to darken up my pigment, darker green, darker pinks and oranges, and we're going to go over our flowers and just darken up those spaces to give more dimension. I've added some brown to this green, and I'm going to start doing the lines on the leaves. You can leave them blank if you'd like. That can be a pretty look as well. I'm just taking my liner. We're going to go over all these leaves and just make some veins. So letting go of your expectations for what everyone else needs to do, what you think they need to do, what you think is best for them, helps you to let go of your anxiety, your frustration, your depression, whatever you would call it. When you think about, for example, your relationships, and maybe they're not the way that you want them to be. Maybe someone has done some things that you don't agree with. How do you move forward from that? Being able to let go of that pain eventually with time helps you to move forward. And it's a hard thing to do. One way to start it is that narrative of allowing yourself time and space to get over what's happened, and also letting yourself know that when you're ready, you want to let go, and you're working on letting go. It's an active verb. And as you tell yourself that you're ready, when you are, that allows your feelings to start to change in that direction as well. And even if we're just talking about art, simply letting go, it's this idea that we let go of this feeling or this need that we need to make everything perfect. And perfection sucks the joy out of us. Plus, I'm not even sure what perfection looks like. Why does it even have a space in our art? It shouldn't, because it just stresses us out. So being able to just kind of put that aside, our expectations, and let ourselves know it's okay. So if we're creating art, just like today, we're going to take a deep breath and enjoy that experience as we darken up our flowers at this time. And I want to give you permission to be able to let go, if that makes sense. If you have an experience that's been hard to let go of, or something that you were able to move forward with, if you don't mind, share that in comments. I'd love to learn from you guys. I love hearing your stories. So right now, I'm just taking a more saturated version of the paint that we had before. So I just added a little bit more pigment, and we're just making some petal shapes here over the top. That's creating a bit more of dimension to the look of these flowers, and giving a little bit more a pop of color. And I think you guys will enjoy doing the layers as well. It's just a great practice to be able to do that and then see your painting come alive. You can leave it with that first basic layer if you want to. That's completely fine. It's up to you. And guys, I just wanted to let you know, if you haven't been a part of my Patreon before, I teach watercolor over there on that platform. You can click the link in the description to learn more about it if you'd like. We have bonus content and exclusive tutorials. They tend to be longer over there. We do live stream together, even have art prints and that kind of thing. So just for you guys to check out if you're interested. I hope you're enjoying painting this with me right now. And just think about the idea of letting go. If there's something in your life that's a bother, that's frustrating to you, consider allowing yourself the time and space to get to that point. It's very healing, and it helps you to enjoy your life so much more when we can let go of the bad stuff. Happy painting.